When you look at our industry, it's a lot about biology and chemistry, and we thought that we should bring something different in the game. Not just to be different, but because we think there's many people and enough people working on biology and chemistry, and not enough people working on the physics side of things. So the key question is, how do we improve the dose in the tumor without improving the dose in surrounding tissue? So when those particles in the cell, the patient is getting the usual X-ray, the particle will absorb the energy of X-ray and will deliver much more damage.
Like how often you had to reinvent yourself?
It's not always an easy task, because if you did something that was really useful in the past, to understand first that it may not be the best thing for the future and to actually apply it, that requires some internal motion. That's what makes this venture very interesting.
Bienvenue to a new episode. I'm your host Philip, and on this show I'm interviewing the best Europeans in biotech to help you grow. Radiotherapy is still today one of the most effective ways to treat cancer, but it could be even better. Nanobiotix is developing a nano radio enhancer to improve the efficacy of radiotherapy in tumors while minimizing the side effects on healthy tissue. The drug is now in phase 3. So I met with the founder and CEO Laurent while I was in Paris. I've known Laurent for over 10 years. We talked about the company's recent, very promising phase 1b results. We also talked about the development of a universal radio enhancer in many types of cancer and why you should listen when people say no, but sometimes still do it. So here's my conversation with Laurent, and please hit the like or follow button if you're enjoying it. All right, welcome to the show, Laurent.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it?
It's been a while. And what's amazing, I want to stop, is I've seen that you recently passed, on Nanobiotix, recently passed the $1 billion market cap, which I think is an amazing mark. I want to know, how you feel about it.
Well, I think we feel just as we felt before. I think until we reach our goal, which is to be able to treat millions of patients and really help and make a change, we just continue our journey. And what I told to the team is, when we are really low in market cap, we just continue to work and continue to deliver what we have to deliver. Then we should do it even when the market cap is higher. Yeah. At this stage, we don't think that's the best surrogate of what we are doing.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. And what was impressive is, what I saw is one thing you recently published was the phase 1b data. I think that was one of the trigger. What was impressive is it was a small amount of patients, 13 patients, but the 6 complete response, I think, is like really high. I don't know how did you look at these results?
I think we look at these results as an add-on to everything else we've been showing. And starting with the first randomized trial we have done in soft tissue sarcoma, which was really the basis to show that our product is working. When you compare the standard of care versus the standard of care plus our product, and you see a significant delta, and you hit all the primary and secondary endpoints, that's really what established the basis for this product. And then every other trial we've been running, adding some more things about efficacy and safety and feasibility, just opening the potential for this product.
Yeah. We'll talk about the platform also a bit more in details. What I'm curious is also to start from the beginning. I remember you told me one thing, a bit of the record, that at some point you will show me the first pitch deck you did. You need to show it to me, but more like what I want to know is how did Nanobiotix start, and how were the early days compared to now?
Well, I think that this deck was fun because for two reasons. It was the first deck we used to pitch the story to investors more than 20 years ago. And what is good is the goal did not change. And the goal never changed at Nano. But the way to reach the goal have been changing because you have to adapt as a small biotech and even as a biotech to make sure you can continue to survive, can continue to develop and bring new things. And it is really rare to know exactly which pathway you're going to take when you start the company. So that's way that completely untrue from a pathway perspective, but 100% accurate from a goal perspective.
And from a vision, I guess.
Yes.
That's from the beginning, yeah. And I think you also one thing that is quite surprising in a way, but you did your postdoc in, I think, what is it, Buffalo University, and some of the technology comes from there, and then you developed in Europe, which is often, I mean, today or nowadays is more often the other way around. Can you talk a bit about this, on how, like, on the tech itself, and how, like, how you transferred it?
Yeah, maybe we can talk about the fundamentals of what we are doing. And I think when we say we do nanophysics applied to healthcare, that's one way of looking at it. But more fundamentally, when you look at our industry, it's a lot about biology and chemistry, and how do you bring something that will interact with the biology of the body to produce an effect. That's the basis for most of the development we have in the biotech and pharma companies. We thought that we should bring something different in the game, not just to be different, but because we think there's many people and enough people working on biology and chemistry, and not enough people working on the physics side of things. So we decided to see how can we bring something new, and for that, looking at a cell not from a biological perspective, but from a physical perspective. And when you start doing so, you don't see like a molecule you want to target with a drug. You start seeing the cell from a different perspective, and you can redefine the notion of target. And then you can start developing small objects that will interact with the physics of the cells. And when you do that, you can have products that could be useful across all viability of biology. And maybe we talk about that later, but for me, that's a big fundamental thing that is shaping our industry, probability of success. And if you can develop technologies that move this probability of success, then that's opening many doors.
And this realization of vision, you had it from the beginning, and like to spin it when you spin out, or when you brought the technology?
Yes, it was from the beginning, even when I was doing my PhD, I should say, working on the nanophysics at that time. I thought that if we could change the way a cell can feel the physics, then that will open many doors.
Yeah, maybe you can talk. I mean, it's a good connection also to the mechanism of action, because at the end you're using nanoparticles to enhance the standard of care on radiotherapy. Can you go a bit more in detail?
And I think that's the first product we have. We have other platform that we can talk about. But from this perspective, maybe we can go back to what is the need we're trying to solve. And we made an observation, which is a very basic one, is at the time of diagnosis, cancer patient, most of them have a local disease, even before having met. And if there are so many patients having metastasis, it's because a lot of local treatment will fail. And our industry usually is taking care of those patients having met, last line of treatment, try to bring new drugs, and eventually, if it works, then try to go to the early lines. But if we think about patients, if you can cure them at the stage where they have a local cancer, then you'll have a big impact. But for that, then you need to go back to fundamentals of oncology, which are surgery and radiation therapy, and some of the chemo. So those are the pillars that are treating patient frontline when they have a local disease. And we have targeted radiation. Radiation is probably one of the biggest tools used in oncology, as more than 60% of patients will get radiation. And radiation, basically, you send X-ray that will go through the body and through the tumor, and you will deposit some dose that will kill the tumor. And the problem is, it's a very powerful technique, meaning you put a cell, you will find a dose of radiation to kill it, regardless of the cell.
And your side effects.
Yeah. The thing is, because the tumor is surrounded by healthy tissue, you're always limited by the dose you can deliver in the tumor, because you're creating damage in the surrounding tissue. So the key question is, how do we improve the dose in the tumor without improving the dose in surrounding tissue? And we've been developing a product to exactly answer that question. So those are nanoparticles that we inject directly into the tumor, And those particles have been designed with a very specific material to be the most inert possible, but also to be a super strong X-ray absorber. So when those particles in the cell, the patient is getting the usual X-ray, the particle will absorb the energy of X-ray and will deliver much more damage than the radiation alone can do.
Yeah. And on the path of the patient, but also from my understanding is you first, when it's a local tumor, you do first the surgery, and then the remaining of this, like the remaining tumor cells, then you do radiation, or do you do radiation also on the?
That's one of the possibilities, but not always the possibility. I mean, basically, if you can remove a tumor by surgery, you try to do it because that's a big benefit for the patient. But many patients, and majority of patients, depending on the indication, will come with a locally advanced tumor that you cannot remove by surgery. Then that's where radiation will play a seminal role in trying to sterilize the tumor and kill the tumor. And often used alone or in combination with chemo or some other molecules.
It's good, and I mean, it's good you're talking also quite on the macro picture. I like that. I'm curious on the last, let's say, you said I think 60% of patients will have radiotherapy. How did it evolve over the last 10 years? Because when I'm thinking about oncology drugs, I mean, you have some huge like game-changing therapies in terms of, I mean, the first whatever antibodies, monoclonal antibodies, I mean, HER2, but now they're moving to first line, and the checkpoint inhibitors and the CAR-Ts. Of course, CAR-Ts for a specific type of cancers, but how did it kind of, and some chemotherapy, but how did that change, whatever, the last decade? And did it impact the number of radiotherapies, or was it, I think, not really?
Surgery and radiation therapy are deeply rooted in the treatment paradigm. You cannot just remove one strong technology to replace it by something else. So yes, that's true what you're mentioning about all those drugs.
It's a complementary.
Yes. And most of the drugs that you're mentioning, they're also starting last line of treatment. Yeah. And if they come back into front line, usually they add to what's existing already front line. If not, that will mean that you have to reshape the entire way patients are treated. And if you go back frontline and you want to see if you can replace one of this old, well-established technology and treatment, the time to get some endpoint or the risk you may bring the patient into is really big.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it didn't change that much, basically.
No, it did not change. That's a conclusion. But what we can say maybe is if we improve the way we diagnose cancer to be more proactive in the way we can prevent cancer, there will be more and more patients that will be diagnosed with a local disease way before it can become metastatic, and therefore local treatment is going to continue to play a key role in the treatment.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah, so you want diagnosis as early as possible. So ideally, yes. Yeah. But that's another topic. It's another topic. So I'm curious on maybe you can expand a bit on NBTXR3. So your Hensify, your lead product, because you. I'm curious on also I think you're running a phase 3 on how you're running it, given what you just said on you want to be at the local stage, so the very early stage of the tumor, but at the same time, I guess it's also a bit harder to run the clinical trial if you're earlier in terms of endpoints, or how does it impact?
Yeah, maybe there is a misunderstanding of what early means and what late stage mean, in the sense that it's not because you treat patient early that they don't have a high unmet medical need. If I, for example, take the example of head and neck, the vast majority of patients, 90% of head and neck cancer patients, they have local disease at diagnosis. The one that have a small disease, like small tumor, can go for surgery. They are the one having the better outcome. So they get surgery plus minus radiation and chemo as an adjuvant treatment, and they usually have a good outcome. There's still few relapse here. The vast majority of patients will get either radiation plus chemo or radiation alone, depending on how frail they are. And for those patients, there will be more overall 60% of the patient that will relapse over time. So it means that they have a need to get a much better local control. And if I think, for example, about the frail elderly patient, the one we are treating in our ongoing phase 3, what they need is local control. And if you look at the literature, you should expect for those patients a median overall survival of 12 months, which is not that big. So if you take OS as an endpoint, then it's not that long to get an answer.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And I'm curious also on the head and neck, because like, why did you choose head and neck versus, and I think you also have some other indication in the pipe, but as a lead, why did you choose this one?
Well, first of all, now J&J, the partner we have for this drug, is running the phase 3 and also other programs. But initially, we've been testing in head and neck because we thought, first of all, that's an indication where patients have a big need. There is a big number of patients with local disease, and head and neck could be a good surrogate of what's happening in other indication. Also, head and neck being an indication which is less competitive than other, like lung and some other, at least at the time we started, it will be addressable for a small company like we were in the past when we started this trial. But basically, what we wanted to prove and what we still want to prove with head and neck and other tumor is you take the patient after diagnosis, they have local disease. If you can bring a good local control and a number of CR, complete response, then you will improve the PFS and the overall survival for patients. This correlation exists for local tumor much more than what you can find in the metastatic disease.
Okay, yeah. And is it because also, is it connected to one of the questions? Because basically the nanoparticles, you have to inject them intratumorally as well. So is it also that head and neck is more accessible or easier to inject intratumorally compared to, let's say, pancreas or something? Or is it not connected to that actually?
Well, I think first, if we look at the fact, today we've been treating hundreds of patients across different indications. So we've been injecting patients in head and neck, in sarcoma, in rectum, in lung, in hepatocellular cancer, in esophageal, and some other tumor. So it's feasible. And I think that there's like some kind of phantasm around intratumoral injection. If you look from an oncology perspective, it's something that hasn't been developed a lot because what we were saying previously, we try to treat a metastatic disease. So it's going to be hard to treat a metastatic disease with a local injection. So when you first look at oncology, it's IV injection, and then you try to get a systemic effect. But for local treatment, which is what the vast majority of patients need after diagnosis, local approach makes a lot of sense. And it's not something new. If you think about biopsy, we do biopsy most of the tumor. And the way to position a needle when you're going to make a biopsy could be the exact same pathway you're going to use to make an intratumoral injection. So it's more about who's doing what in the hospital. Is it the surgeon? Is it the interventional radiologist? How do you position the product and the practice with it what exists in the hospital?
Okay. But I guess now it's like you can, I mean, it's very doable or kind of more common operation than it was before.
Yes, for sure. And we can see that globally, intratumoral approach in oncology is something that really increased and has increased a lot over the past 10 years.
Yeah. That's good. And about J&J also, maybe if you can comment a bit on the deal, because I think it was a very nice deal as well. You can just on how you looked at it, Well,
I think first, maybe let's start to go back in time. So at the time we did our IPO on the NASDAQ, things were moving in the right direction. The market was good. People could find money and continue to develop. But rapidly, at the end of the COVID period, we've seen the biotech market crushing a little. And we thought that with the lack of visibility about the market, it's going to be hard to predict how much we can continue to grow and develop the company and finance the company with an asset in phase 3. So that's where we decided, as we can't plan and anticipate the market, let's find a partner.
Because you didn't partner before.
Yeah, correct. We did partner, but from a local perspective, we had this deal with Bio for China and some other countries. But globally, the product was not partnered. And then at that time, we started looking to different partner, and we said no to some of the partner because we thought they were not the right match in terms of strategy and values for the company. But then we discussed with J&J teams and found not only we share this vision of treating patient early in oncology would be of a great benefit for them, but also we like the people we've been talking to and the philosophy and the values of those people. So altogether, we brought this deal to life.
Yeah, and I think was I have only the upfront, but it was a $30 million upfront, and then the total deal was, but that's the total deal number is always very high, but I think it was in a whatever 2.5 billion or something. But
so that's a 2.6 billion dollar deal in milestone and low teens to low 20s for royalties. And you mentioned the 30 million upfront, but we should go back in time to understand why. At the time we were negotiating this deal, we were a sub 100 million market cap company. So it was really hard to negotiate a high upfront without triggering like a bio discussion or that kind of things. And as a company, we felt there's much more value to create. And that's point one. Point two, I think when you look at the potential of the product and what we believe is the potential of the product, we did establish a deal which is backloaded to make sure we can capture what we think is the biggest value of this product, which is helping potentially millions of patients with radiation therapy. And also we did structure this deal a little differently because there was the 30 million front, there was 30 million in equity. There was also some short-term milestone that were planned, and there was some in-kind contribution also from J&J. So altogether, that was much bigger.
Much bigger than upfront. And if we look a bit on what you said about the vision and on the high level, the next steps. But I think, you mentioned it, but at the end, Nanobiotix approach could target like most of the indication, most of the cancers. So, you think you're talking about a universal radio enhancer therapy on your website. Can you tell a bit more about that vision and how it's feasible?
Our vision about this approach of using radio enhancer in oncology is if you use a physical mode of action, at least from a primary mode of action perspective, then it is something you can apply broadly into patient, right? And that's why we started doing it, and we hope that's why also J&J will continue to do. But the fundamental of this, and I want to come back to some of the comment I was doing about biology and chemistry, is when you think about it, when you inject a product, like a biological product in a patient, you never know if the target is going to be rich. You never know if the target is fully present in the patient. And you never know, for example, in oncology, if the target will be expressed in every cancer cell, or if the target is not going to increase, then decrease. And that's why we see so many resistance appearing in some of the cancer treatment and so on. It means that the mode of action you're using with sometimes the biological molecule is uncertain, depending on where the patient is sitting and which patient you're treating. If you use a physical mode of action, you don't have all this variability. So at a very basic level, you have a product that could work in every patient. It doesn't mean that you will bring the same benefit for all patients because they have their own biology, but at a primary level, you have a mode of action that could work for all patients. That makes a big difference when you think about probability of success, when you think about universality.
Okay.
And that's what we see with radiation, right? We don't screen patients to see if they express a specific biomarker before getting to radiation.
So it's just kind of sensitive, So in the head and it needs to be head and neck. I guess it needs to be a local head and neck, and then you can basically treat them.
It's like in prostate, like in breast, like in glioblastoma or liver cancer or many other cancers.
Okay, and can you maybe to finish a bit on nano, but on the next steps, whatever in the next 12, 18 months, you said maybe the approval, I guess, is one of the biggest, or the end of the phase 3, the biggest next steps. But
we can discuss about the future of what now J&J is doing, and I think from now that's J&J that is going to communicate on that product, especially the advanced program. But Nanobiotics continue to run some of the program, like in combination with PD-1 and radiation in head and neck, in melanoma. And we also have a big alliance with MD Anderson Cancer Center that are running. So from now on, we'll continue to talk about what we are running, and J&J will start communicate on what they do as they do usually.
I'm curious also on the competition you have in the nanotherapy space, because even when I looked up to prepare the conversation, I found a few like competitors, but also not that many. How do you look at it? Like competitors, how do you differentiate from them?
Well, then can you name the competitors then?
I found like Nanospectra. I think that's what I found, and one other that stopped. Was it NH-Theragics, or how you pronounce it? That's some I found. I don't know. Okay.
So if you think about Nanospectra, that's a company that is using particle that they activate or excite with laser.
Okay.
So it's a different technology and does not target the same thing. And there's a fundamental difference here. Light that you use in lasers, they have limited penetration in the body. So you cannot target every tumor with that. But the biggest differences is we are using a practice that is shared by millions of patients and already rooted in the cancer treatment. So we don't change all the practice to treat patients. We're just going with the flow. If you want to use the particle activated by laser or any other equipment or any other practice that is not in the hospital, you have to recreate an entire practice. And therefore, the penetration of the market or the use of such a product should be or will be very limited. So that's a big limitation of not using an existing practice in hospital. And that was one of the reasons why we did stop one of the first technology we were developing to move to NBTXR3, the one that is combined with radiation. So that's for this. They use
direct competitors.
We don't have direct competitors, and that's also the way you structure your intellectual property. You have competitors when you target a patient, right? Because many companies with different type of drug approaches trying to help the same patient. So if you treat a head and neck metastatic patient, you have many approaches that are under development. So we have indirect competition for helping those patients. But fundamentally, when you look at product, that will be radioenhancer, meaning inorganic crystalline particle with high density, which is a prerequisite to get a strong absorption. So we don't have direct competition in that.
Okay. Yeah, so you don't have direct competition on the technology, but you have direct competition, I guess, on the indication. Yeah. On the indication. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And like I'm still curious on why is there not more people using radioenhancers or developing radioenhancers?
Well, and then you should have Genentech when they started, where there was not too many people using monoclonal antibody.
Yeah. But I'm still curious why. I mean, even Genentech, you had a few people using NABs, even when they were at that time. I know.
Well, I mean, to be fair, going with biology into healthcare is a natural bridge, right? Because even when you started in the past developing chemical molecules, you need to understand biology to get there. And so when the first biotechs have been developed, there was a bridge that occurred over time, and then it became part of the pharma industry, the biotechnology and the biological molecule. And now we see more and more complex biological objects coming in.
Yeah.
When we started Nanobiotics, the nanophysics and the understanding of how reducing the size of the material would change the physical property was something emerging, right? And when we started combining this emerging science with biology or with healthcare, there was not many competitors doing so. And as we've been the first for the past 20 years to work on that and pioneering this science for decades, then we still have advance versus others. Yeah. What we should expect is when we start, as any product, to see some good outcome in the clinic or the first marketed product, etc., I can guarantee there will be much more people running after it.
Yeah.
So it's all about when you start, being in the front of the wave so you can protect with IP a very broad domain, and you can advance faster than others and be in the front.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I want to switch gears a bit on the French biotech ecosystem, because I think you've seen quite a lot. And one thing that I've seen recently, which was quite amazing, I think was, it's been 2 weeks ago. I think you guys passed the $1 billion mark, and then there's Abivax and also Medincell who passed. So now you have basically three biotechs at that level, which I think is kind of, one of the only times, if I remember well. How do you look at the French biotech? What is the ecosystem? I think market cap is market cap, but I think it reflects also a bit of something like.
Well, there have been in the past some companies having $1 billion market cap and going up, going down, and I think, but more importantly than the market cap is, I think this ecosystem is maturing.
Yeah.
There's more and more company that hit the mark of approval or beyond or getting there. Yeah. And that's a sign of maturity and a sign that the good science we've been developing so far needed some entrepreneurs and time to get to the right level of maturity, either to make deal with pharma or to get to the finish line of the marketing approval and sales. And the more company will get there, the bigger the ecosystem could be. That's one of those things we have been observing for the past 20 years. But also, I think the value of the product we're developing interestingly, if we can develop things that are different and being in the front of things, then that gives us a hedge. In everything, I think in every business, if you don't have a hedge, then it's hard to compete, especially if you compete with companies that have much more money and could go faster and etc. So I will always say to people that want to start a business that, especially in the European ecosystem, if you don't have something different, if you don't have an edge, don't go there. The best chance you have is be number 4, number 5, and you will have a lot of drawbacks in general. So try to do something others don't do.
Yeah. Actually, it's one thing that I saw also. I think you said in an interview that comparing more like European, let's say, tech transfer or commercialization compared to US commercialization, and you were saying that European was actually not that bad. I think, it's not your exact words on it.
In commercialization?
Yeah, I think.
I may have forgot this interview. What is that?
So the European innovation is as progressive as what we're seeing in America.
Yes, that I can say.
Yeah.
Clearly, when you think about science, right, it's sure that with a good platform, a good ecosystem, and a lot of money injected, then you have a much greater chance to develop and to find some innovation. But you cannot prevent spontaneous innovation to come from anywhere in this globe. And when you look at some of the key innovations, some of them have been developed here, many of them have been developed in the US. So just coming back to my previous comment is, if you have an edge, if you find something new that others don't have, that's where we should put our investment. And it's not always what we do in France and in Europe, but I think we have few of those technologies, and that's where we should really go for it.
Yeah. That's good. I want to go a bit more on the personal level. It's not only on the biotech things. One thing you told me, which it still struck my mind, I think was in 2020 when we talked, and you told me on decision making. I don't know if you I think maybe you remembered. You told me when I have a decision that is kind of equal, I don't know what to pick, I flip a coin. And actually I applied it a few times. It kind of worked.
No, when I say that is in our industry or job, there are many times where you have to take decisions which are not certain, right? There's always a level of uncertainties, and many of some decisions sometimes is a lose-lose situation where you don't win anything going A or B, but you have to choose A or B. So that's where we don't flip a coin, but then you say, where do you find more certainties and control in those type of decision? And those are not easy decision to take. The rest is really easy, but those one are complex. But that's where you can make a difference. That's where what you decide matters and can help to grow or to go down sometime.
Yeah, I like that. I want to say on a bit more on your personal. I don't know if you put on your personal style. Let's say I think you're quite direct. I think people can tell. I think, and no BS, no bullshit. I'm curious on how do you I don't know, were you like this before, or do you try to control it, tune it down a bit, or you just let it go? How do you look at this?
Well, that's a complex question, and I think we evolve, we change, we learn over time. I'm today not the one I was 5 years ago and 10 years ago and even before. I think a big part of my internal process to move forward as being a CEO of Nanobiotics is really, first, I had to get out of my brain. I'm scientist at core, and I've been spending a big part of my life in my brain, thinking about science, imagining things, having my own world, and it was easy. It was cool. Everything was possible. And that's also what led me to be able to invent or to start inventing what we have at Nano and starting the development of Nano. But at some point, you need to shift from being a scientist and understanding the risk and having a vision to lead people. And you can't lead people being in your brain. So that has been the biggest shift I had to do, getting out of my brain as an introvert, as I am, to start getting to know the people and knowing where they are so I can show them where I want to go. That's a big thing I've learned, which is not efficient, but essential to what you want to do. So more than efficient, essential. If you want to lead and bring someone somewhere, you need to take them where they are. And then you can show where you want to go.
I like that. I was about to ask actually on how over the 20 plus years you have been founder and leading and CEO of Nanobiotics, how often you had to reinvent yourself. I mean, you said one of the things. Do you have any other other examples?
Yes, I mean, you need to learn from your mistakes and grow, and also agree and be cool or fine with the fact that what you were doing in the past is not necessarily what you need to do in the future to grow and to continue to grow the company. It's not always an easy task, because if you did something that was really useful in the past, to understand first that it may not be the best thing for the future and to actually apply it, that requires some, there's some internal motion. So you need to move that. But that's good. I mean, that's what makes this venture very interesting. That's where you get the passion, is that every day is different. You always have the same goal and you need to keep your goal in mind, but what you live with people, with the constraint, with problem, with the good side, the downside, you have to evolve and adapt. But it's a different journey every day.
Yeah. Like that. I want to switch the final part more to, let's say, quick fires or quick questions, quicker answers. And one is connected to what we just said. Do you recommend starting a company after your PhD or postdoc, or gather experience first?
Both. There's no pathway. There's no predefined pathways. It's all about the people and what they can do, but I recommend to be ready to evolve.
Yeah. I guess you will have the similar answer, but do you, I don't know, prefer, should you go for a founder CEO or hire a professional CEO?
Depend. Yeah. Frankly, it depends. Okay. I think if you develop something disruptive, highly based on a science that is new, to keep a scientific vision in what you're doing and how it does insert into our ecosystem, I think is an important thing. Yeah. But like old-timer CEOs and professional CEOs could do also a good job. So I don't think there are key rules here.
What's the most common misconception that investors have about nanotechnology? And where your answers, but yeah.
Nanotechnology is a word that is used in many places. And when you look at the manufacturing capabilities on this planet, there's a lot manufacturing of nano or nanoparticles. But you can find them in paper, on the paint on the wall, on the cars, on your phone.
Nanoplastic.
In many places. So it's just like you say, I invest in tech. Tech could be many things. So it's just a big word. There's so many things in it.
Yeah. So I guess investors should look into more details, I guess.
Well, like they do for any investment in some specific companies, yeah.
I don't know if you want to answer this one.
But go for it.
What's the next billion-dollar biotech in France?
Well, I have few ideas. I won't say it. I'm not supposed to comment market. But I don't think, again, for me, the valuation of a company should reflect the value created. And until you get to the market, until you start having a clear vision on how much revenue you're going to generate, et cetera, could go up and down. And that should not be the target. Yes. We work in an industry where the long-term view is more important than the short-term view.
Yeah.
So if you believe in the fundamentals, if you have something that is strong, that can help patients, and you have a strong pathway to market, like a partner or by yourself, then you have to wait to get to this stage, and then you get the real value and valuation and return to investors.
I like that. You mentioned it a few times, but I think, and I've seen it on the show, people have mentioned it, but at the end of the day, when you focus on execution, especially on the clinical trial execution and generating the data that makes a difference, that's the fundamental, the most important, gives you the options. And of course, you need market cap if you fundraise, but that's definitely not the end goal.
There's a milestone for every stage. You need to bring your product to clinic, and then you need to show it's safe, then you need to show it's working, then you need to get the final phase 3 data, then you need to approve it, then market it. And depending where you are, all those things will create value, of course. Yeah. But ultimately, it's when you use the product in hospital every day after market approval that you can start catching the real value for the patients.
And you make a difference.
And for everyone.
Another bit controversial question, but should a French or European biotech still list on Euronext or go directly on the Nasdaq?
That's a good question, and sometimes it's a rhetorical or theoretical question because there's so many different stories, and there's a question of can you or can't you. Sometimes it's good, if possible, to go directly to Nasdaq, but if you're a small biotech unknown by the market there, it's kind of almost impossible to do it. So it's more about where should I start my company or where should I grow the company more than which market to be listed in.
Like that. One mistake you made in the past 12 months.
Wow. What do we do as a mistake? I think we did much more in the past than in the past 12.
You can say what one for the 12 months thing.
No, I think that the biggest mistake we do, because it's very hard to prevent, it's in people, right? I mean, you get people to enrich the team, to bring and to grow the team, and it's not a science. I mean, it's not an exact science. And we learn with time on how to select people based on the value, based on many other things, but it is not an exact science. That's kind of a mistake we do less and less. But we can prevent ultimately or absolutely over time.
And on your personal level, I guess you're involved in the hiring, but
I tried to start learning a new language, and I studied for 5 days. Then I thought, God damn it, I need to move forward, and that was a big thing. But it was not a mistake. It was a good thing to start a new thing. But we'll see where I go with that.
What's one biotech company you would have loved to be part of?
Nanobiotics.
Yeah. Who's one of your biotech or biopharma heroes or mentors?
I don't have many.
You don't need to name the public
mentors, but I have many people I talk to to get additional perspective. I give also my perspective to them. It's more an exchange, peer to peer, trying to understand their problem and share ours to see how we can grow. Can you tell me what's spinning in your brain?
I think especially as entrepreneur, usually, I mean, either you have, I think I can share this, like if people you talk to, kind of peers, and this is super helpful to share challenges. But then I can feel myself, I have kind of some heroes or some people who inspire me a lot, but that I don't know necessarily, I don't know personally. I mean, I have kind of levels of people, like some people I talk to, peers, some people are mentors ahead of me, and then some more heroes, I don't know, whatever. I don't know him, but I read biography of Henry Termi. I'm like, wow, it's super inspiring. Or maybe in the tech world, whatever, Steve Jobs or some guy like this. So I'm kind of thinking to the answer. I'm thinking, do you have on this layers? Do you have people on that layer?
Well, I'm more fascinated about physics and what it brings and how deep it is. Than having one or the other person having accomplished something extraordinary. I mean, I like what people do in general, but I bring value to people that do things. And then depending on where we are, depending on the context and our ability, we do more or bigger things, small or bigger things. But yeah, that's the way I think.
Yeah. Maybe the last one to finish was for the bit younger audience who watches, if you have one final advice or an advice for them.
Well, listen why people are saying no, but just go for it.
I guess that's what you have been doing for 10 years.
Yeah, kind of.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurent.
Thank you.
Great conversation. Yeah. I'm impressed by how Laurent grew Nanobiotix from basically a rough idea to now $1 billion company
while being very focused on patients. I'm also impressed by his mindset and the clarity of the bigger picture. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like, follow, or review button. Any of these actions would help a lot the podcast to get to more people. If you want to support us even further, you can make a donation by clicking on the link in the description below. We also have a lot more videos on our channel, so please feel free to check them out. I would also be curious to hear what you think, so if you could leave a comment wherever you are or shoot me an email at philip@Flot.bio. All right, thanks for staying to the end and see you next episode.